I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today, the invocation will be given by the Most Reverend Edmund Carmody, Bishop Emeritus of Corpus Christi. Bishop Carmody, welcome.
Thank you.
And please go ahead and come up to the podium.
Good and gracious God, we thank you for inspiring the members of our City Council here in Corpus Christi to volunteer their services to helping this community to be a strong, dedicated community. Lord, we cannot forget their families who make the sacrifice to allow a member of their family to give their time and talent for the whole community. Lord, this is a great day as we celebrate the beginning of a new council here in the city. Lord, you inspire them to take on this responsibility. May their vision be that they will treat the people in this community as brothers and sisters, taking care of them with great passion and with great love. Lord, may they truly be servant leaders, leading the community by serving the community, always other-centered, seeking the good of others, helping others, affirming others. May the council then make this city a true community. May this city be known for its hospitality, and may the fame of the city be known all over Texas as a place of hospitality, as a place of goodness, as a place of joy. May our city, called after you, Lord, Corpus Christi, truly radiate the goodness and joy and love that you radiated when you walked the roads of Palestine. Lord, bless them, keep them healthy, keep them strong, bless their families. May they continue to do good and have the vision to help others, making this community a community of justice, a community of peace, and Lord, a community of joy. With your help, Lord, it can be done, for with you all is possible. Bless them. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. and state flags will be given by my son, Jude Victor. Proceed to the podium, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I'm sorry, Ms. Huerta, can you go ahead and call roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Council members Roland Barrera. Mr. Barrera? Can you hear him? Okay. All right. He's just off mic, but he is here. Gil Hernandez? Here. Okay, we've got a little feedback. Everybody can hear me? A lot of, okay. Michael Hunter? Apologize, y'all. Michael's here, I hear him. Billy Lerma? John Martinez? Ben Molina?
Present.
Mike Pesley? Greg Smith?
Here.
City Manager Peter Zanoni?
Here.
City Attorney Miles Risley? Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
Great. Now we'll proceed to Section E, public comment. Ms. Huerta, have we received any written public comments?
No, we have not, Mayor Guajardo, so
Okay.
no written public comments at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure why we're getting some feedback, but they're working on that.
Okay. Before we move forward with the rest of the agenda, I'd like to take a moment.
We do have a call-in, though. So we did
Oh,
not
we
have
do.
written
Oh,
public
I'm
comments,
sorry.
but we just got one right before the start of the meeting.
Okay.
So if you bear with us for a
Sure.
moment, we'll attend to that citizen. Just a moment. Very good. Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Klein, will you please state your name and address and then make your comment?
Sure. My name is Jim Klein. I live at 3501 Monterey Street here in Corpus Christi. I speak today as the chair of the Clean Economy Coalition in opposition to this city's wrong-headed pursuit of desalination and its use of taxpayer money to pay for television ads promoting this bad idea. 6 desalination plants are proposed that would dump salty brine into Corpus Christi Bay, significantly increasing its salinity, killing plant and animal life in this body of water. Desal plants in the Tampa, Florida area and the San Diego, California area discharge their salty brine into open waters so that the increased salinity can be dispersed relatively quickly. Corpus Christi Bay is a closed bay system. Water remains in the bay for 1.6 years before exchanging with Gulf water. This will allow the salty brine discharge to accumulate in Corpus Christi Bay to a much higher degree than elsewhere. On July 8, 2020, the consulting firm, Fries & Nichols, held a public meeting with environmental groups concerning this issue. A licensed engineer with that group and an international authority on international water supplies responded to a question about the cumulative effect of multiple desal plant brine discharges into Corpus Christi Bay by stating that no one has conducted such a study and that someone should do so. To date, no such study has been conducted. Additionally, the Hart Research Institute for Gulf of Mexico Studies at Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi has produced a study indicating that any increase in salinity will increase the likelihood and frequency of red tide algae blooms in Corpus Christi Bay. Past red tide events have caused large fish kills and have emitted toxins into the air that were sufficiently noxious to drive people away from the bay front. The City Council created this crisis in the first place by foolishly overcommitting our water supply, agreeing to sell tens of millions of gallons of water each day to individual industries. Based on these concerns, the Clean Economy Coalition recommends that the City Council abandon this project and seek instead alternative projects such as tapping nearby aquifers that are less environmentally devastating and less costly to the water ratepayers of Corpus Christi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Have a good day. Okay, Mayor Wajardo, that concludes our call-ins for today. So
Okay, thank you. Before we move forward with the rest of the agenda, I'd like to take a moment to recognize 2 mayoral proclamations. The first was given at the request of New Life Refuge Ministries, declaring January 2021 as Human Trafficking and Awareness Month. And I'd like to thank them for their efforts in trying to eradicate human trafficking. Second, last Christmas, the Downtown Management District held the 2020 Mayor's Battle of the Bulbs. Downtown business compete in this contest to see who has the best Christmas light display. To follow is a short video
my apologies. Sorry.
I'm out. Okay.
Sorry about
Hit the
that.
video. We have a short video announcing the winners of the 2020 contest. So go ahead and play that video now.
We got some folks from the community to come out and see how decorated up the different merchants in downtown are making it, turn it into a Christmas festival. And we're looking forward to seeing their creativity, just to have the Christmas spirit in downtown Corpus Christi.
The decorations were spectacular. All these businesses came together and put a ton of energy, a ton of work, and it came out spectacular to see the the downtown area energized like that. It was just beautiful. Special night. NEC Co-op Energy is honored to be a sponsor. Like I said earlier, the energy that all these businesses put into decorating to make the holidays a little bit brighter this year during this uncertain times that we're going through. So, you know, we're just happy to be part of it and honored to be partnering with the Downtown Management District this year.
Wonderful. Congratulations to all the winners. I want to also thank NEC for their partnership. I'm a big believer in partnerships, and I don't think it could have been possible without them. I see Alyssa Barrera Mason with us here. Thank you for spearheading this. This is what, you know, envisioning what you did and you made happen is what matters. And it looks beautiful. I mean, that was a beautiful, by the way, whoever took the video did a great job too. Beautiful, thank you very much. And I very much look forward to being the judge of this year's Battle of the Bulbs. So thank you very much. Next is section F, City Manager's Comments and Update on Operations. Mr. Zanoni?
Great, thank you, Mayor, and good morning. And let me begin by congratulating our newly elected mayor and our council member at large, Mike Pusley, and John Martinez as well. Welcome aboard to our city council. We want to welcome the returning council members as well, and Councilman Lermer as well from City Council District 1. I'm sorry, a new council member. Congratulations to our returning members, Councilman Hunter, Molina, Barrera, Smith, and Hernandez. We, the city team of professionals, look forward to working alongside you as we continue to advance the city forward, right? So just congratulations and welcome back. We're going to begin the city manager's report by having Annette Rodriguez talk to us about our COVID-19 efforts, and in particular, our focus now on vaccination. We're going to also put up a few pictures here as Annette gets ready to come up. I just want to walk through what we did yesterday, and Annette will talk a little bit about that as well. And so I think Gabe is going to put those pictures up. But yesterday we held our first, what we're referring to as a mega vaccination effort, and Mayor Guajardo was there, as well as Judge Canales. You can see in this picture the vehicles. We had probably close to 2,000, well, probably not 2,000, but over 1,000 to 1,500 vehicles stacked. And the next slide shows a good one where they were not only in the lots that we thought, but if you look to the right, they stacked along that, I think, County Road 44 maybe, all the way as far as you can see. Early in the morning, people got there at 4 a.m. yesterday, even though we told the public we were going to do about 500 people. The process is real well. Here's city staff registering people in the vehicles. If persons didn't have the capability, they may not have a computer or just the ability to do that. So our staff, out in the cold, mind you, one staff member I spoke to this morning was out there for 8 hours, and his hands were just freezing, obviously, by the end of that shift. But next slide shows you the QR code. Just as an example, we show the resident, after you complete the entire form, you'll get this electronically. And this shot here shows you our staff, the health persons drawing the vaccine from the vial into the needle that ultimately is injected into the patient. So there was a whole little team that just for several hours, right, Annette, or hours, just drew and drew and drew out of the vials once they were finally shipped here. This next slide here shows you that same action. It's real tedious work, and Annette told me yesterday the vaccine is very delicate, and so you can't really shake that vial too much. It's really, you need some calm, gentle hands to get that vaccine out of that vial. This slide here shows us the drive-through. This is the first vehicle that pulled in. We shifted gears yesterday, and instead of vaccinating outside, we brought it inside this facility here, Barn A, or I forget the exact name for it, but Exhibit Hall A, I think is what we call it. So the next slide shows you a little more action. This is the cars all queued up, ready to go. At this point, we were waiting for the federal government or FedEx to get the vaccine shipped to us. It was several hours delayed. But you can see here, the next slide shows us finally we began to vaccinate. Notice that the persons, our staff in the blue PPE, they're vaccinating from both sides of the vehicle. And one thing we recognized yesterday that I'm not sure if, at least I didn't anticipate it, but the vehicles were full. And so there were 4, 5, 6 persons per vehicle. But the staff in their business plan had a great idea to vaccinate from both sides for expediency. And this next shot shows you a little more depth. Oh, this is a good one here. It's just a close-up view. The gentleman, Fonzie just told me, this gentleman is 80-something years old, 87 years old. And look at their faces. They waited for hours, almost a whole day. But when I looked at persons in the vehicle, nobody looked upset. And they were just so relieved to finally get that vaccine after 10 months. This next shot shows us a little bit more of the depth. Oh, no, I guess it's another close-up. You know, we're doing phase 1A and B, and that includes persons 16 years of age or older that have a comorbidity. So that young gentleman probably had some type of comorbidity. This shows a little more action. On the next slide here. Oh, is that it? Okay, that's it on the slides. So we had 4,000 vaccines that came in yesterday, and I must remind the council and the community, because there's a lot of misinformation I see out there in social media. The city does not control the vaccine. We're at the mercy of the federal government. We can only give out what we get from the federal government down to the state. So yesterday we did receive 4,000 vaccines, and we administered 2,000. Annette sent me a message last night at 10:26 saying the last vaccine has been administered for the day at 10:30 last night. I suspect a lot of us were probably retiring to sleep or watching something in the comfort of our homes right on TV, but the staff was out there all the way to the end till 10:30 last night. That leaves us with about 2,000 vaccines for today, and we expect to go through all of those today. In fact, just before noon, we had already administered 1,200. And so we're doing about 500-600 vaccinations an hour, which is pretty unprecedented. And so we'll be advising the community that it's most likely the drive will not take place Wednesday and Thursday as we initially had thought in the business plan for this week, because the vaccines will be all administered today. Even though we told the community we'll do about 1,000 today, the lines were just as long as what you saw in those photos from this morning. So the good news is that next week we expect on Monday another 4,000 doses. Yep, next week 4,000 next week. And Judge Canales and Mayor Guajardo yesterday did place a call to the state to request additional for this week. We'll see if that comes through. If it does, it'll be later on in the week, probably Friday if we hear anything. So what I told the one media outlet last night, and it's good information to repeat here, is that the community really needs to look at the city's website pretty constantly. I would say twice a day. We will post updates if we get additional shipments of the vaccine, which is, it's not something out of the blue moon. We may get more midweek. We're doing a great job communicating with the community, but as you can imagine, information changes pretty rapidly. So the best way to get information, look at our website a couple times a day, or keep an eye out for media alerts. So if we get more vaccine, we'll do more drives this week, and that's the same for the rest of the business process. Mayor Guajardo did ask me yesterday to do an after-action assessment of how we did today and yesterday, and we'll be doing that later this week. We're also looking at our communications plan to see how can we strengthen that up a little bit to make sure the community is best informed. I do want to thank the community. I mean, there was a few comments of people being frustrated, but the 2,000 people that went through yesterday, I think recognize that this is an unprecedented endeavor, and I think they do see the dedication of the teams that are at work up at the fairgrounds right now. We will be doing some intercity, but Those teams include city employees, county employees, even employees from the city of Robstown, Texas. So this is unprecedented. We've never done this before. A professional that works across the country in software execution said that he is unaware of any other city in the country that's doing a vaccine drive with as many people being vaccinated as our city right here. So that's something to be proud about. The state recognizes that. Yesterday, Mr. Gary Barney from the Texas Department of Emergency Management was there on site observing, and they're one of the critical entities that'll get us more vaccines. So they saw the good work we were doing, and that should help us get more vaccines to our region. So that's just a highlight of yesterday's efforts, and we're going to bring Annette up that's going to talk a little bit more about it, and also focus a little bit on our stats this morning. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you, Mr. Zanoni. Annette Rodriguez, Health Director, and I too want to congratulate you, Mayor, and all the new council, and welcome. So first slide, please. So I'm actually just going to go and talk about the statistics, so we can actually look at the statistics for the United States versus the state of Texas versus Nueces County. And so for the United States, it shows the number of cases, as well as for Texas. And then for Nueces County, you see our cases are at 31,613 cases. And then for the deaths, you see the number of deaths for the United States, as well as Texas. And then for Nueces County, 585 deaths. So the death rate is 1.67 for the U.S., 1.55 for the state of Texas, and 1.85 for Nueces County. So the total cases, if you look at the bottom bar graph, since November 29th by week, you see the last 6 weeks there, 1,000 for the week of November 29th through December 5th, and then 926 for the following week, and then 1,188 cases for the following week, and then the week of Christmas, you see 1,248 cases of COVID-19 in Nueces County, 1,285, and we're still at 1,258 cases this past week. Next slide, please. This bar graph shows you the December COVID-19 weekly deaths. And so again, the week after Thanksgiving, you see 18 deaths in Nueces County, 13 the following, 8 the following week, 18 the week of Christmas, and 8 deaths the following week. And the week of New Year's, you see we're at 30 deaths for that first week of the year. Next slide. We've been showing a comparison rate of flu, because we still have seasonal flu in the midst of COVID-19. And so we've been showing that comparison. And so if you look at the red line is this year's data. And if you look at the blue line that's complete, that's compared to last year's data. So the red line at the bottom, you're going to see 15 cases compared to 563 cases last year. Next slide. So we did, as City Manager Zanoni mentioned, we did have our mega COVID-19 vaccine clinic that started yesterday. It was very exciting, very stressful, very everything. There was a lot of different emotions. I think a lot of the anxiety was just waiting on the vaccine. So some of the things that we've talked about, trying to be very flexible to our community, is maybe waiting till it actually arrives and then opening for a full day the following day. And so we were anticipating receiving the vaccine early morning. Then we were later told 10:30 in the morning, and it actually didn't arrive until after 2. I would have to say thank you to Amistad, because they did transfer 200 of their doses to us to help us get our vaccination clinic started around 2 p.m. And I think in 15 minutes we had already given all those vaccines out. So that was really exciting for us. We are still at the phases 1A and 1B. 1A being the healthcare workers, those frontline workers that are working with COVID-19 patients, hospitals, doctors, nurses, EMS, et cetera. And then for the phase 1B, which is a new phase that just opened recently, that's 65 years of age and older. They don't have to have any comorbidity. It's just the age factor, as well as 16 years and older with at least one comorbidity. And those comorbidities do not have to be proven at the time that they're receiving their vaccine. So, next slide. So we received 4,000 doses. Yesterday we administered 2,014 doses by the end of the night. So again, we started late. We didn't start until 2 p.m. And today we've administered over 1,200 doses. And so we have some doses left. We expect to complete that probably before 5 or 6 this evening, and then wait again for more vaccines to arrive for next week and start again. We anticipate doing these vaccination clinics all the way until June, July, until everybody that wants to be vaccinated in Nueces County and the surrounding areas have been vaccinated, and we don't have any more lines. Next slide, please. So how is Nueces County rolling this out? Again, our top priority groups are the healthcare workers, the residents of long-term care facilities that actually most of them have their own plan with Health and Human Services. And so they've signed up with either CVS or Walgreens to receive vaccines directly. And so they will be vaccinated soon. The rollout was supposed to start December 28th, but there has been some delays for some of these nursing home facilities. Again, people over the age of 65 and those over the age of 16. New vaccine shipments are expected to be arriving in Nueces County weekly, as long as we're turning them out around and actually vaccinating people. The Commissioner for the state of Texas, Dr. Hellerstadt, has made it very clear that all providers, when they receive vaccine, must vaccinate with the sense of urgency. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're vaccinating like if our parents are in the line and they need to get vaccinated. Next slide, please. The Texas rollout system, the COVID-19 vaccines are safe to use and very effective for preventing COVID-19 illness and death. So getting vaccinated is voluntary. There's no one that should be coerced or forced to get vaccinated. But we can see that a lot of individuals are wanting to get vaccinated, which is really good news for us. Again, people cannot be required to get the vaccine because the FDA has only approved an EUA, an emergency use authorization, and so they cannot require that they get vaccinated. So we continue to ask that people social distance, wear a mask until enough people are vaccinated and immunity is obtained in our community. The faster we vaccinate our citizens and the surrounding areas, the sooner we can end the pandemic and put it behind us. Next slide. So here are just some numbers for you to look at for COVID-19 vaccines in Nueces County. How many have been allocated? We have a system called VAOS, our vaccine allocation ordering system that we use for Texas Vaccine for Children. So we actually get to see for the whole community how many vaccines are allocated to us in Nueces County, how many have actually been received. So 29,875 have been allocated to our community, but only 23,175 have been received at this time. And it shows that 12,548 have been administered. So for the health district, the last 2 weeks, we've received 600, and we've given all of them out. Fire department has received 700, and they've given all of them out. HEB has received 1,000, and they've given out 977 at the time of the report, but they probably have given all of them out as well. HEB will continue to receive 100 vaccines this week per pharmacy in Nueces County, which totals to 1,000 for all of the HEBs here. And you can see the others as well. Next slide, please. The vaccine allocations by week, and I just wanted to show you that week 1, the hospitals were receiving first. We had Christi's Spawn Hospital that received the first allocation of 5,850. Week 2, There was more allocations to different areas, like the health district, the fire department, I think, was allocated as well. HEB Amistad, 4,700. Week 3, 4,575. And then week 4, 8,050 for these ones here. So you do continue to see increases every week, which is good. And we're hearing that there's going to be a lot more vaccines coming very soon. Next slide, please. So who should not get the vaccine? So CDC has put out a recent update basically saying if you have had a severe allergic reaction to any ingredient in the COVID-19 vaccine, you should not get vaccinated. So a lot of people are saying, well, how would I know? Well, after the first dose, you'll know not to get the second dose. If you've had a severe allergic reaction after getting the first dose, do not get the second one. And then also, if you've had an immediate allergic reaction, even if it was not severe, but they are specific, like hives, there's certain things that construe, what's immediate severe allergic reaction, and immediate's within 4 hours after receiving your vaccine, that you should not get your second dose. Next slide, please. So recently we had what everybody's heard of, the UK coronavirus. It's the B117 coronavirus variant in Nueces County. On Sunday, we were notified of an individual with this variant virus, and so we reached out to the individual and spoke with them. This was a gentleman between 60 and 70 years of age. He had recently traveled to the UK because he had a family emergency that he needed to be over there. And he had family members that were sick, and he came back and he was ill, and it was the variant strain. The variant strain does seem to spread much faster than the original COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. And so we're really watching it very closely to see if there's any changes that we may see here locally. Because of that, this person has been in isolation, does not get out of isolation until today, actually. And so that'll be the 14 days. But we also, our local health authority wanted to go a step further. We wanted to make sure that they got swabbed again to make sure they were negative before actually going back into the community. So the good news that early data seems to suggest that currently the COVID-19 vaccine is able to protect you against this variant. So that's really good news. So get vaccinated when it's your turn and continue to follow the 3 W's. We did have a call yesterday with our state and federal partners, CDC, to discuss the variant strain, and any mitigation efforts moving forward have all been discussed, and so we feel very good about our plan going forward. I open it now to any questions.
Great, and we do have a few questions, but going back, Mr. Zanoni and Council, just to reiterate, I've requested an updated communication plan, and of course the debriefing you mentioned on this week's rollout. And the point to that is lessons learned. This is all new to everyone, and it's amazing. You really have a different outlook when you're there and you see everything going on. It's an unbelievable amount of work, very difficult. And thank you to our police department for being so instrumental in that. Lessons learned, and of course, what improvements we can make for next week. This is going to be ongoing, so we can improve anything. And being this is a very new process for us, and I think that everyone performed amazing. I got compliments regarding your staff. What could have been, I'm sure it's county and city staff, but that's wonderful. But again, just to reiterate, because I know the council has concerns, updated communication plan and debriefing, of course, that Mr. Zanoni and I that would happen anyway with us regarding the rollout is coming. So I just want the council to know that. First in line here is Councilman Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank the healthcare workers that participated yesterday to make this possible. I know it was very successful. I'm very pleased to see the demand is so high for these vaccines. I think that is excellent, but it does create issues. And one of the concerns that I have, one of these issues is that I feel like we were giving bad information to the public. We had a plan for how we were going to handle these 4,000 vaccines that went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it seemed like yesterday that all went out the window, and now we have a maybe a 2-day vaccination schedule, which I'm okay with. But my issue is that we had told the public for several days, this is how we're going to do it. And then when it came time to implement that plan, we didn't do it. So a lot of the public felt that they were misled or did not have proper information. I just want to be sure that going forward that we're giving the public accurate information that they can rely on so that they can plan for the vaccinations, whether it's taking work off or finding babysitters or whatever they need to do so that they're able to do that and make sure we're doing something to address that.
Thank you, Councilman Martinez. I appreciate that feedback, and I agree with you. You know, the message seemed to be muddied, and so people were confused. We did say 500 and then 1,000 per day, but we also knew that we had to vaccinate with a sense of urgency, so we'll do better messaging for sure. So the health department's very good at you give them vaccines and they know what to do with it. They want to turn them around and get them out into the community, which is very positive, but it could look negative if, you know, it's not messaged correctly, so I appreciate that feedback.
Councilman Molina?
Thank you, Mayor. I took time to head out to the site yesterday afternoon, just right before the vaccines were set to begin being administered. And what I saw out there was impressive because you've got so many agencies involved, city, county, I think A&M was out there also, and so many others involved. And just the amount of coordination, the effort put into it is astounding. And understandably, with the effort as in the undertaking, as big as it is, there are going to be plenty of opportunities to learn and improve. And I heard that from the staff members that I spoke to there, that they're making notes and looking to see what can be improved on. And I was also impressed because the developer of the software for the registration software was there with his own team assessing and even helping administer some of the vaccines because he's a doctor. And just knowing that the people that are involved are looking forward to seeing how we can improve on the process. So I wanted to extend my appreciation to the city staff and the county staff and all the organizations involved because I spoke to several residents, some who were in the line, some who had family members in the line. And although it was a long day yesterday, many of them were just happy that they were able to get the vaccine. So I wanted to express that appreciation from the community to you.
Thank you for that.
Mayor, we have some questions back here too.
Yes,
when
yes.
you get a chance.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Councilman Lerma.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have one question and one concern. By any chance, did we lose any vials on any today at those 4,000? I mean,
No,
everyone was able to be administered?
every one of them. So, and they know
That's
we
good.
we waste no vaccine. In fact, in most of the vaccine, you can draw out 10 for sure, but in most of them we can get 11. Our nurses are so good at doing this, and that's the same for flu vaccine as well. Sometimes you can get that 11th dose if you bend it a certain way. And so they've asked us to do that, and so we have been getting the 11th dose, and we use every dose.
Well, that's great. That's outstanding, because some other areas that I've heard, they've lost some vials because they'd mishandled it or that, and I was just concerned, but I just want to say thank you for the health department and all the people, the staff that were involved. It went very smooth, I thought. The only glitch was that it got here late.
That's right.
But that's okay. We were still able to do what you needed to do, and I commend your staff and all the departments that had anything to do with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you very much, Annette, for the comprehensive report on there. And my compliments to administer that much this quickly on there, and particularly today, that it looks like you're just going to go through it in no time. So you're doing just an excellent job. Going forward in the future, are you looking at other locations on there besides, what are the plans there?
Yes, so we've also looked at the Greyhound racetrack. It's more centralized inside of Corpus Christi. And so we are looking at some other locations. We've reached out to the mall, so we've looked at utilizing the mall parking lot. And so we've looked at these places. Right now, this is kind of just where we started, and we can leave it there because it's a county-owned facility. We can leave everything there in the evening, and just when we get back up, everything's still there because they have security and they're keeping everything, safeguarding it for us.
Do you have any kind of timeline on when some other locations could be opening up?
I'm really looking at the vaccine as the doses are increasing. So right now, while they're still at 4,000 doses, I think we have a really good system set up. But as the doses start to increase to maybe 6,000 or 8,000, splitting and being able to do some at different areas, and then still having our permanent site as well.
Right, and Council, can I just add in that we're looking at using some of our senior centers?
Yep.
That would be one of the first things, and Chief Roach is here with us, so he's another authorized administrator of the vaccines, and the firefighter paramedics are trained to do this, and so that's another resource we have. We're ready to go, we just need the vaccine, really, from the federal government, so
Yeah.
the senior centers have a natural flow through every day where seniors come and pick meals up. And because of the COVID protocol, they don't sit down in congregate settings anymore. But we have I think it's over 1,000 people that come through every day to get meals. And so as soon as we get that vaccine in excess of the mass distributions, Chief Roach's team's ready to go, and we'll be at the senior centers across the city, in the inner city. We hear that loud and clear, and we understand it, and we know it. It's just a matter of getting the material, the vaccine. Probably in a couple weeks, in that, you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I believe that to be
The
true.
state, just to be fair to Annette, the state, we wanted to break some of the vaccine out and do it this week, but the state told Annette we couldn't do that. We had to keep it all in that mega site. So again, for the community, we're beholden to the federal and state government when it comes to the vaccine. We have staff and processes, but without the vaccine, we can't do anything.
And I just think for the public out there, one of the other takeaways is this is not your only source of the vaccine, correct? That HEB has had 1,000 doses on there, that our hospital systems, I know a number of people have been vaccinated. We've received, the county, 4,000 doses, they've received 16,000 doses. So as you're out looking for it, there's other alternatives to it. And I think that your department is doing a great job looking, okay, you get 4,000 in, and 2 days later you have 4,000 out. So you can't do much better than that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Annette, do we have a plan, or maybe plan in the making for the homebound? People who can't come.
Right, and so I think, as the city manager Zanoni mentioned, the Meal on Wheels, so these individuals, many of them are homebound. And so the CC Fire Department has agreed that when they have allocations, or we have additional allocations, that we'll share those resources. They will go out to these individuals in each home as meals are delivered, and then they'll wait the 15 minutes for the adverse reactions. So, and we're looking at other areas also that we need to reach out to. But at the time, that's kind of our plan.
Okay, and that's my concern, is those who are not in the program, that are homebound and they can't come wait. And I think that'd be great if we can have a discussion about getting a plan together for that, because that's going to be probably a loud voice that we're going to hear from. Also, could you share the webpage where all of the other locations, or those that have been approved to administer the vaccine, can you share that with everyone so that people know there's actually a central place that you can go look these up?
Yes, so if you go to the cctexas.com/coronavirus, there is a provider map on there. There's a link to the provider map, and you can actually click on there, and you can actually go into Corpus, and you can see the little dots, and you can click on the dots, and they'll show you like HEB, 100 doses received, and then it'll show like 10 doses remaining. And so that's very helpful. You know, it's still trying to catch up to real time, but it's getting there. And so, but the system's very helpful for people to actually to be able to see HEB has received another 100 doses. And so they can start calling them and setting up appointments.
And is that on our website, Mr. Zanoni?
Yes, it is.
The
Yeah,
cities?
the
Okay,
website
great.
that Annette says is the city's website, so cctexas.
did say city.
Yeah,
I'm so
.com
sorry.
/coronavirus. And that map
Great.
is on there.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
wonderful.
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quickly, how many total have actually been administered? I know you had some numbers that weren't complete, but how many total?
Of the 4,000?
No, of all, you've had several.
Right. So
including outside sources besides the city.
Right, so for the health department, we administered 100 the first week, that's all we received. We administered 537 because of the extra doses the second week. And then these 4,000, we've almost administered all 4,000 at this point, and that's all we've received.
Okay, and that includes the hospitals and every other provider?
No.
How many total for the city?
Oh, for the, let's see.
Countywide, yeah. Do we have a total number?
Yeah. Yes, so we received 23,000, and they've actually administered 12,548.
Okay, about half.
About
so
half.
Okay. So at what level do we get to a point where we can remove the mask order? How many doses, how many vaccinations do we need to get to?
And that's a great question. So initially, we were thinking, when 70% of the population actually has immunity to the virus, either by natural immunity, because they've had the virus, or through vaccines. But now with the variant B117, they're thinking that it may be more of the population that actually needs to get immunity before they'll be able to take off those masks. So that has not been determined at this time, and they're still studying the variant strain to see how that's going to affect our numbers.
Okay, so if we're looking roughly around 400,000 people in the county, we'll need 350,000 with vaccines, vaccinated or recovered from the actual COVID?
At this time, yes.
Okay, so we're a long way from that.
We're a long way from that.
Okay, so kind of to piggyback on what the mayor said about people that are homebound, but we have a lot of people in assisted living location, nursing homes, that kind of stuff that aren't going to be able to travel to that. Is there a plan for those locations?
Yes, the federal government has actually, some of these nursing homes signed up with the federal government so that they're the provider. CVS or Walgreens will come in to the nursing home and actually vaccinate all of their staff and their residents that want to receive the vaccine. Some of these nursing homes actually signed up as their own provider, so they will receive vaccine directly, just like we are receiving, and then
Okay,
they can.
do we know if we have that available? Do we know that who's their own provider and who's going to be administered by CVS or Walgreens or whatever?
We do have the list of who signed up as a provider in our area, and I can bring that to the next.
Okay, that probably something could be emailed to council members.
Sure.
Also, since we're in the 1A timeframe, what is the percentage of first responders that have been vaccinated?
I'll let Fire Chief answer.
Thank you, Annette. Good afternoon, Councilman Robert Rocha, Fire Chief. We've vaccinated every first responder in Nueces County who has wanted a vaccine. There has been a percentage of first responders that elected not to receive the vaccine. The fire department itself, we were at about 67% compliance with vaccination, but there's still a percentage that chose not to get the vaccine. We have offered it to every first responder, CCPD, CCFD, Nueces County fire groups, the EMS, law enforcement, sheriff's department. Everybody has been offered the vaccine, and that's why we were able to distribute all 700 vaccines.
Okay, thank you,
sir.
Thank you. And Annette, one last question. Both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines require a second dose, right? 21 days, I believe, and I forget.
28 for Moderna.
How many?
28.
28 days for Moderna.
Right.
Now, I'm assuming that the 4,000 ones are Pfizer? Or are they
No,
Moderna?
They were Moderna also.
The Moderna. So in 30 or 28 days from
Today.
last week, you're going to have to do this whole round again with all the individuals. Do you have, I'm assuming with the registration, we have all the contact information to get them back
Yes,
so
we
they can
do.
get their second dose?
Yes, and in fact, the software we've asked them to include in the software system, and they have, where they actually will text them, and they'll email the individual, and they'll let them know that it's time for their second dose, and then they'll actually send them a link so that they can look at a calendar to see where the availability is, but also so they can register, because they've already registered initially for their first dose. So registering the second time is easy. They'll have their QR code, and then they can just come through and get vaccinated very quickly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilman Hunter?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Hernandez asked the question. On slide 9 or 10, I didn't see the first responder vaccinations quickly enough, so I was just going to ask to go back to that and see what the case was there. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Councilman Pusley?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Annette, I just echo what everybody else has said. Great job on what y'all did out there, Peter. I think it went really well. For the number of cars I saw in those pictures, it was amazing that y'all were able to process that as quickly as you did. It's just unfortunate we don't get more vaccination vials from the state or whoever has them. I heard on national news the other night that there's some 40 million vials available or vaccinations available now to be shipped, and there's some sort of communication breakdown between the federal government and the state on how they get those dispersed. So once again, we're at the mercy of the government. Could you go back to your slide about the reactions where you talked about you don't mind, just real quickly, I had just a quick question. It went by kind of quick.
That's slide 11.
Let's see, the allergic reactions. So this is kind of indicating, it says, if you're allergic to or know that you're allergic to any of the ingredients, do we have a list of those ingredients that we can publish?
Yes, absolutely, and it's on our website as well.
Because we don't want to tell people, look, if you die after you get the first vaccination, you probably shouldn't take the second one. So,
right. No, in fact, we give them the information, and so when they sign up initially, and that's their consent to say, I want to get vaccinated.
so you give them that list at that point.
Yes, we actually give them the emergency use authorization fact sheet, and it tells you Moderna, and it tells you all the ingredients, and it tells you all the possible allergic reactions. So there's
Okay,
probably
good.
more information than they need.
Okay,
And
that's
it's on
great.
it's on the
I just-
website too, right now?
Yes,
It's
it is on
posted
the
on our website as well,
Okay.
Councilman Pusley, so
Okay.
people can read it before they even get to this site.
Okay, good. I assume we're putting all this on it's great information, I think, for people to know about the locations. Do we have that on our website as well about, I know right now we're tied to one location, but there are other places like HEB. Do we have that listed?
Well,
or-
what we have is a link it's called a provider link, and so if they're looking for providers in Nueces County, they can actually go to that, and it's a map, and it shows dots where all of the vaccines are located, and you can actually click on the dot, and it'll tell you how many they received and how many they still have.
Okay.
So, and they can call them and, see if they can get in
Make
that.
arrangements to do, okay, that's good to know. And I put the information on social media, my social media, that Peter was sharing with us, and the only negative comment I had was, why are we only doing it at the fairgrounds? And I didn't really have an answer for that, because I didn't know that the state had restricted us to that one location. But so
This-
you're telling us, Peter, that the state gave us the 4,000 vials and said you can only distribute them at that one mega site.
The state doesn't restrict the location. The state actually restricted the 4,000 doses to be used at the location that we choose to vaccinate at. So instead of saying, I'm going to give you 200 and you vaccinate this place or that place, they want a very transparent operation where everybody, the community, can see we have 4,000 doses. We vaccinated this many people the first day. We're vaccinating this many people the second day. What they don't want is to give us 4,000 doses, and then at the end of the first day, we say we did 1,000 and we're closed, because they're thinking, well, what happened to the other 3,000 doses? Well, they went to all these little different areas.
So if you pick, and I'm just using this as a hypothetical, if you pick Padre Staples Mall to do the next 4,000, then they would want you to do all 4,000 of them there and not 2,000 there and 2,000 at the fairgrounds.
No, you can split it that way. You can split it into your different locations. So they just don't want you to take pockets and not be transparent to the community that you're taking small 500 doses and they're going somewhere that the community doesn't know. So if you take 2,000 and say we're vaccinating 2,000 at the Padre Staples Mall and 2,000 at Richard Borchard for a total of 4,000, that's fine. Just don't start taking all these other doses and, vaccinating
As
doctors'
long as we tell
offices.
people up front, then they're okay with us putting it.
Yes, and they also
Because I will
ask,
tell you, I learned at the county in that, and you probably know this as well as I do, there are people who live in the far south end of Corpus Christi who think that the fairgrounds might as well be in San Antonio. I
Right.
mean, that's just how they look at it.
Right.
And so, and right or wrong, that's just a feedback that you get. So maybe we might look at that down the road. I was going to ask you, the graphs that we've been receiving, Annette, and this was the question I had for you that I emailed earlier. Have we taken that and use it such that we don't violate HIPAA laws, but put that into a heat map and see if there's any clustering in Nueces County where these COVID cases are occurring? Or has that already been done? Or have we not done that?
so we definitely have not violated HIPAA, that's for certain. And the information that we have done is actually on zip codes. And so by zip codes, we've actually done some by deaths. Statistics are still being calculated and analyzed at this time, but we're actually, looking at them as well and trying to give feedback on where some of these areas are. And so, yes, we've done some of it. To what extent, not full extent that we could, but again, it's just a matter of resource and staffing for us to be able to do all of that. But we do also have Texas A&M who's actually helping us with a lot of that.
Well, I would just think, logically thinking about it, if you look at a heat map of where these cases are occurring, where the deaths are occurring, and look and see if there's any clustering as a result of that might help us choose locations where we're going to try to disseminate the vaccinations first.
Yes.
So if you've got any part of Corpus Christi or Nueces County where you've got a higher than normal incident of people either contracting the COVID virus or who are dying from the COVID virus, that we could attack that area with the vaccinations to see if we could slow that down. So I just think that's really important for us to do. I mean, you can look at these numbers on these graphs till you're blind, but if you don't take that data and analyze it, it doesn't help you. It's just a number.
I agree.
I would encourage us to do that. And then my last question, it goes back to Chief Rocha. Chief, you said that a number of the emergency responders had chose not to take the vaccination. Do you know what percentage of your staff that is? For the fire department, when we did the registration, it was around 67%. And I do want to make one thing clear, Councilman. We still have a little bit ways to go to make sure that all of the first responders do have an opportunity to receive the vaccine. We did offer it, but then sometimes later people change their mind, or maybe somebody was on vacation during the week that we were administering the vaccines. But we want to make sure that we want to encompass all of those first responders that we need to get those that are in that 1A and 1B group.
Okay, good, very good.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Chief.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Annette, thank you very much for bringing clarity to the location, the distribution location place, because I was mistaken in what I thought was. So I would then say, we absolutely, and it's one of the things that I know I've heard is have a location inside the city limits. And I would imagine that would be outside of the selected people that we may end up doing in terms of the Meals and Wheels, the senior locations. But I know that's a logistics issue as well. But just let's keep that in mind for these next, the forthcoming distributions, if you will.
We will.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's, I don't see any more lights. So the next section, G, thank you, Annette.
Mayor,
Thank you
just,
very much for all of your hard work.
Mayor, I did have just two other quick
Oh,
things.
do you? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
They're
Yes.
time sensitive, otherwise I'd
Sure.
move them
No,
off.
no,
But
no.
so one is to talk about Martin Luther King holiday, which begins, well, which is, I'm sorry, not begins, but which is this coming Monday, right? And it is recognized now because of Mayor Guajardo's effort last year as a city holiday. And I think it was some 30 some odd years, 35 years since the federal government enacted that as a local holiday, and we didn't partake in it, but all most city employees will have that day off in recognition of the efforts and the cause that Martin Luther King had. So due to the COVID pandemic, we know that there is a march also in Corpus Christi, and Mayor Guajardo and I were in it last year, as well as many other persons, Judge Canales, as well as a lot of employees and other leaders across the community. But this year there will not be a march due to COVID-19. And so the Corpus Christi Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, they have sponsored our MLK March here for many years. And they are going to have one via Zoom this year, though. So there'll still be a march. You'll be on your own using Zoom. The sorority has sponsored the march in Corpus Christi for 35 years. And so we partnered with them this year to work with them to see, is there going to be a physical march? And their headquarters still did not want to do something like that, which is the right move because of COVID. Now, what we want to tell the public is that the virtual march will begin at noon on Monday. And to register and to get information about the march and other events, you want to go to this website. So it's cctexas.com/MLK. So that's the city's website with a /MLK, cctexas.com/MLK. We want to encourage everybody to participate. We've heard the same before, that the day is really not a day off. It should be a day on, right? Let's get out there in the community. And for this year, because of the COVID pandemic, let's look at that website and get out there and march individually safely. And then the final thing is talking about that, which Martin Luther King talked about, diversity and inclusion. Just before we broke in December, we talked about Chief Markle's hiring practices in our police department and the fine job that he's doing in having diverse hirings in our cadet academy classes, and Chief Rocha is right there with him, and we wanted to highlight what he's doing. And so this past Monday, I met with what is known as the 43rd Fire Academy class to show my gratitude and appreciation for them joining a proactive fire department that consistently strives to protect life, property, and the assets of us from emergency situations. The fire department works very hard in recruiting in the community, and it recognizes, Chief Rocha does, who's here with us today, it recognizes that a diverse workforce provides inclusivity for all races, genders, and cultures. Today, the department has 458 sworn firefighters, and with that cadet class that started Monday, the composition is almost 53% Hispanic, 45% white, and 2% African American or black. Last year, the department initiated a recruitment program targeting the minority community in order to improve participation levels. The fire chief met with black clergy members to organize 2 recruitment efforts at Brooks AME Church. This was the first extraordinary effort for the fire department, and it paid off well. The partnership with the African American community because of that, the minority participation improved in this new cadet class that started on January 4th. The breakdown of those 25 individuals, the newest cadets, are that about half are Hispanic, 11 Hispanics. We have 3 African American, and then 5 females. And that's pretty tremendous in what has been a traditionally male-dominated business, the fire and EMS fighting. So very diverse, and we thank the chief and his leadership team for just not paying lip service, but for actually doing this, right? And they have it in their business model, and by doing even more, you can see we have even better results. So the trend in the fire department is to continue this, meeting with Brooks AME, meeting with paramedic schools that have a lot of diversity there as they come out, and using social and print media as well. We know, both chiefs and myself and our leadership team knows that a diverse workforce reflects the community, and it's important because we can gain perspectives into all cultures if we have a diverse workforce, and we can better identify the needs of our community, not just in firefighting, but across the board. So we want to thank both chiefs, Chief Rocha especially this week as we highlight your department, and Chief Markle, thank you for your work, because this is, it takes a little effort, right? It's just not something that happens overnight. And so we have a good culture and a lot of dedication by these 2 fine professionals. We want to thank them and their teams. Mayor, that concludes the city manager's report for this morning.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Zanoni. Okay, so moving on, Section G, Item 1 is the approval of minutes.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we have, I present the minutes of the December 8th regular meeting and the December 22nd, 2020 special meeting for your consideration.
Are there any corrections or revisions to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item H refers to special appointments. Item 2 is the selection of the mayor pro tem. Ms. Huerta, can you please present?
Council members, per the charter, Article 2, Section 4 provides that the city council shall nominate and confirm one of the council members who shall be known and designated as mayor pro tem. Historically, the mayor recommends a schedule that gives each council member the opportunity to serve as mayor pro tem on a rotating basis. And then the council confirms that schedule by motion. So Mayor Guajardo is recommending the following schedule. So from January the 12th to April the 5th of 2021, Roland Barrera would serve. From April the 6th, 2021 to June the 28th, 2021, Gil Hernandez would serve. From June 29th to September 20th, 2021, Michael Hunter. From September the 21st to December the 13th, 2021, Billy Lerma. From December the 14th, 2021 to March the 7th, 2022, John Martinez. From March 8th, 2022 to May the 30th, 2022, Ben Molina. From May the 31st, 2022 to August the 22nd, 2022, Mike Pusley. From August the 23rd, 2022 until the end of the term, Greg Smith.
Okay, council members, I entertain a motion to approve the mayor pro tem schedule read by Ms. Huerta.
So move.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 3 refers to mayoral council committee appointments to the audit committee and the municipal court committee. Council members, I've made the following appointments. Audit committee, Chair Gil Hernandez, members Greg Smith, Billy Lerma, and Mike Pusley. Municipal court committee, Chair John Martinez, members Ben Molina, Michael Hunter, and Roland Barrera. I really appreciate your service to these committees, council members, and good luck in those, and we'll be reconvening on that at a later date. Let's see, board and committee appointments. Item 2 refers to board and committee appointments. The council will be considering appointments to the reinvestment zone number 3, which is our downtown, TERS. Ms. Huerta, please review.
Okay. So for the downtown TERS, we do have 7 vacancies, and the terms are from February the 28th, 2021 to February the 28th of 2022. Historically, these positions are held by council members. And note, staff is recommending the positions with terms expiring in 2021, February 28th, 2021. That's next month. We're asking that the council consider appointing those individuals to a term ending February 28th of 2023. That way we don't have to come back again next month to take care of those appointments. So the council members, is there a question? Council members who are eligible for reappointment are Mayor Guajardo, council members Barrera, Hernandez, and Smith. So those 4 positions, their terms expire on February 28th, 2021. So if it please the council, we're recommending that the council appoint them to terms ending February 28th, 2023. Thank you.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any noes? The motion carries.
Okay. So then the next thing we have is recommending the new appointments of council members Lerma, Pesley, and Martinez. 2 of those positions have a term ending February 28th of 2021. And of course, as we stated, we're recommending that if it please the council, those persons be appointed to a term ending February 28th of 23. And one of the other position, and then of course one of the other position is to 2022. So the city secretary's office, in this instance, what we do recommend, we draw lots to determine which person gets those terms. And we do that administratively in the office. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention at this time. So at this point, we are requesting the appointments of council members Lerma, Pesley, and Martinez for those terms to be determined.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, finally, Mayor and Council, per statute, the council appoints the chairman of the board for a 1-year term beginning January the 1st of 2021.
Council members, I'll open the floor to nominations for chairman of the board, but I would like to appoint or recommend Councilman Billy Lerma.
That's for the board. So the governing body actually determines who the board of
3.
Yes, sir.
Downtown.
I nominate,
Which he's the district representative of.
I nominate Billy Lerma for chair.
Just did.
I second.
No, well,
And for clarity, so everyone knows, on appointments, we don't need, correct?
Right. So just for nominations, we don't need a second. We're just taking nominations now
Not
at this
that
point.
it doesn't.
Well,
hurt,
I don't anticipate somebody else being nominated, but, so I
Of course
second.
you do, Gil.
We don't presume, yes. So,
I just don't want that to be confusing,
no, that's true.
moving
That is
forward.
true. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Hearing none, the nominations are closed. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Councilmember Billy Lerma as chair for the Reinvestment Zone 3 Downtown Board.
So moved.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Section K is the consent agenda, items 5 through 19. Ms. Huerta, did we receive any written public comment on consent items?
No, ma'am, no comment.
Okay, great. Would any of the council members like to pull an item for individual questions or comments, consideration?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 15 and 16 for
15 and
questions comments.
16, okay. Anyone else?
Number 11, please.
11, so 11, 15, and 16. Okay. Let's see, so we're going to do 5 through, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items 11, 15, and 16. Is there a second?
Was there a motion? Did somebody make a motion? Okay.
No, I made,
Did you make it? Oh, okay.
oh, entertain, I'm so sorry. So you want to make the motion?
I make a motion to approve all the consent items with the exception of 11, 15, and 16.
Second.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
Mayor, while we're at it, I'm going to abstain from item number 11.
Oh, item 11.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Molina.
you.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Major and Council members. I'm Charles Mendoza, Director of Asset Management, and I'm standing by for questions on number 11, which is the roof contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
One of my items that I really want to make sure that we are transparent about is the where the funding is coming from for any kind of contracts that we have. Now, this one had funding details allocated by the appropriate fund source in various projects, so I wanted to make sure that we publicly say what those are.
Yes, sir.
And what it is. So if you can kind of expound on what the funding sources are.
Yeah, different type of fund. If you use it from the facility maintenance, that's one type of fund. The other one could be type A. The other one could be some of the bonding that we, for 18. But there are some projects there that we facility, the asset management is taking over. So we're using some of that funding in order to pay for these roof repairs or replacements.
Okay. So just for clarity, the multiple sources are from bond sources for some of the roofs, like I know we had several in 2018. You have from your own facilities budget.
Yes, sir.
And then you have individual budgets from other locations.
Yes, sir.
From other locations.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I want to be clear about that because, like I said, I want to make sure that we're following all items. So with that, I make a motion to approve number 11. And I guess for the record, Ben is.
For the record, Ben abstained, yeah.
Right.
All
Was there
in
a
favor
second? I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Thank you,
Yes.
Lily. Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry,
So I'm glad Billy brought this up, Councilman brought this up. It says an amount not to exceed $3 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's approximately 30 buildings that this covers.
Yes, sir. That's what we're estimating. Last year, just to give you a recap, we spent about almost $2 million, and we fixed about probably close to 70 buildings. Included a lot of the fire department, included the health services, some of the museums, the libraries, Heritage Park housing. The city has about 470 facilities right now, so we're kind of short about 400. So it depends if we, like I was explaining before, because we have some bond money, we could use some of that bond money to repair or replace some of the roof. We could use type A funds. Or if the customer comes with their own budget, sometimes they have any operating budgets, they'll come and ask me, Charles, can you help us out to fix a roof? I said, yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand all that. It just seemed to me like it was a large sum of money for 30 buildings. I mean, figure that's $100,000 a building. I don't know what the size of these buildings are, but that fixes a pretty big roof.
That doesn't mean that we're going to spend the $3 million. Like I was saying before, last year we spent $2 million. We were expecting to spend $2 million on the lapse of about 2 years. Well, once a year and 2 months hit, we already spent. So
are you encumbering those? Do you encumber those funds in the budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And at the end of the year, if you don't use the $3 million,
yes, sir. We don't use it. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Great. I think that's all the questions on 11. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 15, Mr. Zanoni?
What we
we need to
didn't need to vote, and we
Pardon?
need to vote on that. There's a motion
Oh,
and
I'm
a
sorry.
second on the
Okay, I
floor.
thought we were
so
going to do
just
the
need to vote.
3.
Ma'am?
We don't do the 3 at the end?
The 3?
The 3 items at the end? No.
No, we do. We just need to vote on
Each one.
11, each one individually. So 11,
Okay.
we do have a motion and a second on the floor. We just need the vote at this time.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And for the record, Mr. Molina abstained.
And Mr. Molina abstains, yes. The motion passes.
So next we have item 15, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services, and I stand ready for your questions.
Yes, Mayor, my question on item 15 has to do with, do we have a priority list of the projects that Freeze and Nichols is going to address with respect to all the things you've listed here?
What this is kind of an on-call standby contract. So we've been moving more towards this type of contract and away from, we used to do staff approvable, small contracts with much greater frequency. Staff has the ability to approve contracts up to $50,000. What we've started doing is moving more towards this master service agreement format, which gives us a contract on the shelf. What we do in engineering services, people bring us requirements. We execute capital projects on behalf of all of the city's operating departments. So a lot of times when they bring us a requirement, they want you to be able to go now. A lot of times they wanted it last week. So if we've got to go through the process of publishing a request for qualifications and evaluating engineers and then going through a selection and then getting a contract approved, it might be 3 or 4 months before we could address their situation. By having a contract like this on the shelf, we can issue a task order within a day or two. So it allows us to be much more responsive. There's not a current list, there's not current work for this, and the contract itself really has $0 value. The funding is at the task order level.
Yeah, Councilman Pusley, prior to my arrival here, as Jeff Edmonds said, the protocol of the business process was to issue smaller contracts, but there was no process. It was just whoever we wanted to issue it to. So this set up a process. We received 7 proposals. They were scored. We select the best one on price, competency, that type of thing. So this is an up to amount, again, similar to that roof one.
Right.
So we'll only spend this money if projects are identified. The customers for Jeff includes Public Works, street maintenance. There could be others. Airport may have one in the future. And so this gives us that capacity. And what it does, though, is it gives process to selecting firms. And as I mentioned, there were 7 that participated, and we selected the best one, and we're recommending it today.
Yeah, I like the master service agreement type of plan. We use those in the corporate world and very effectively. I just didn't know if y'all had, so basically what you're doing, you're fixing it as it needs to be fixed. And this gives you the ability to move quickly.
We basically take the handoff from Public Works.
Gotcha.
So traffic engineering is under Public Works. If they've got a need that requires an engineer, we would pick up the phone and call Freeze and Nichols, say, hey, we need to meet, we need to scope this out, negotiate a task order.
But they could, at the beginning of each year, have a predetermined list of things they know they need to fix. Is that correct, or?
I'm going to let Richard take it.
He probably does, right?
Good afternoon, Council. Richard Martinez, Director of Public Works. Yes, sir, we do have a maintenance list that we have to do. What we use this one for, if we have a knockdown, let's just say a signal gets knocked down that's out of cycle for us, then we're able to utilize this contract to be able to do that. Or if we want to put in a HAWK, a high-intensity walk signal, or something that's specialized like that, we can use this contract to be able to do that, out of cycle.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm clear now. Are you all going to handle number 16 too?
Yeah, that's me as well.
Okay.
Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services. These are similar type contracts, but this is for geotechnical engineering and construction materials testing. These are on call. Again, it's a base year with a 1-year option. We currently have 2 of these contracts. We were hoping that we would, those would last until the summer, but we've actually run out of dollar capacity on those contracts. So we recompeted that, and we're recommending 4 contracts. And what we do is we have a rotating list. When we get an assignment, the next one in line gets that assignment.
So I guess my question here is a little different. On these geotechnical surveys, what type of projects are you using these for? I mean, geotechnical surveys usually are in advance of a sizable project, where you're going in and doing.
Correct. These are 2 things. So rather than contract the geotechnical testing and the design phase to the engineer of record, to the design engineer, they bring us a requirement, the testing that they would like to do, and then we'll issue a task order to one of these firms. And we provide that information back to the design engineer.
But my problem with this is what you just described means that the city owns the geotechnical survey, correct?
That's correct.
And so I want to give you an example of where I think that's risky. For example, one of the big questions that has arisen with respect to the construction of our new harbor bridge is geotechnical surveys. And those are owned by the engineering firm that are designing the bridge. If those were owned by the city, the county, the state, whoever, then the engineering firm can say, well, you know, this thing collapsed because you gave us a bogus geotechnical survey. So my note here to myself was, I just am a little concerned about the city owning that responsibility. And typically, you make the engineering firm of record own that responsibility.
I would think if we were doing something of that magnitude, we would probably use a different model. And we have on projects where it's, like for example, Park Road 22, that geotechnical was subcontracted to the engineer.
Do we do post-geotechnical surveys? So if you go out and the city builds a road, or you have a contractor build a road, are we going in and doing geotechnical surveys to determine if we got what we paid for?
Correct. That's one of the uses of this. So on the front end, they're doing things like pavement cores to see what the existing pavement is on a roadway. They're doing soil testing to design a new pavement. Most of this work is driven by the bond program, the street bond program.
Okay.
And then we're doing quality assurance materials testing during construction. This is concrete cylinders, compaction tests on soil, nuclear density, all of those kind of tests that you do to ensure that you're getting the materials that you're specifying in your contract.
Well, I guess on small projects, I'd probably be okay with this, but I would just caution that on really large projects where we have a lot of money, that taxpayer money that's going to be invested, I'm not sure it's the smartest thing for us to be owning that responsibility.
I would agree with you on that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we would probably use a different model rather than a task order on that.
Mayor, that's all the questions and remarks I have. If nobody else has anything, I'll move that we approve item 16.
We actually
and
have.
15.
And 15.
We do
already
have
have-
one. Councilman Hernandez.
Yes, and Councilman Pusley, I'm glad you pulled this because I was going to pull it myself too. I notice on item 15, you only have one company that can do freeze and nickels, but in 16 you have two. Can you tell me the difference as to why we have only
There's
one
actually
for?
4.
You said freeze and nickels.
No, I'm sorry. On 15 is 1, but on 16, there's 4 firms.
Okay, so there's 4. I'm sorry, I only read the rock engineering and testing laboratory. Okay, so you have 4. This makes even my argument a little bit stronger here. Why do we only have 1 for 15 and not 4?
Well, so this is the first time we've done this on the traffic, and we're expecting a not-to-exceed amount of $250,000 a year. I doubt we'll get close to that amount. We are doing significantly more work on the geotechnical engineering and the construction materials testing. So we've got 60 projects under construction right now, más o menos, and every one of those has some kind of material testing requirements. Plus, of course, we just passed the Bond 18, and we're going to be entering into design contracts and having to do geotechnical cores to support those designs on those projects. So we're doing quite a bit more of that work than we're doing of the traffic engineering work.
Okay, so one of the things that I know that I've been communicating with engineering companies, or actually when I first ran for office, was that they just wanted to be treated fairly and have the option to be able to do things. Now, so I would imagine that this is one of those things that could be looked upon negatively, as selecting 1 versus 4 like this other location. I understand the amount, the dollar amount, but we should probably, if we're going to do these MSAs to where we're not doing individual projects that come to the city, or in this case that may be staff driven, or if it's under 50,000, that you have more than just one MSA for every engineering or these types of agreements, so you can rotate for that as needed. I mean, they're all you qualified them all, as I understand. You just picked one that you thought was best qualified, right?
That's correct, and that was a staff decision. We could have put 2 people on that. I think you could argue that anyway, but I think the logic was that it wasn't expected to be a very large assignment, that one firm could probably handle it.
So do you have like a dollar amount where you make that decision from, or is it just kind of on a feel?
I would have to say it's the latter. It's
Okay.
more on the feel. This is something that one firm could easily handle, and if we had a situation where we had a firm that wasn't performing, we would put it back out. But I'll take that under advisement. I mean, I really could have gone either way on this.
I want to make sure that we're providing enough opportunity for other companies as well, and try to keep the process as fair as possible to everyone concerned that's competing for city jobs. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edmonds. So we have a motion on the floor to approve items 15 and 16. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. See, no, we're not at lunchtime. So we're going to skip over to item M, public hearings, which we have none. Item N, regular agenda, none. And that puts us at item O, first reading ordinances. So section O refers to first reading ordinances. These are items 20 to 24. And council members, I'd like to vote on these items as a group with one vote, unless there's an item you'd like to consider individually. Anyone? If so, speak now. Mr. Zanoni, are there any staff or any items that staff would like to address within these?
No, Mayor. We have a couple of grants in 2021, a donation from Exxon. The Lexington is pretty self-explanatory, and then the last one is a sale of properties where they're in a lien situation. We'll get our portion of taxes. They're all pretty routine.
Great. Okay, great.
I make a motion to approve items number 20 through 24.
Second.
Okay, great. Any discussion on those? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Let's see.
All we have left is the briefing, Mayor.
Briefings. Okay.
Item 25.
Section O, okay, refers to briefings. Item 25 is a quarterly update from the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Vasey, welcome. And if council would please reserve your questions or comments until after Mr. Vasey is done, that would be great.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Welcome to the new folks that we may not have had a chance, and welcome back to the folks that we have worked with. I'm Ian Vasey with the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation, who is the city's contractor for economic development. Let's see, on a regular basis, we give you an update. Let's see. I'm going to try and push this button. Let's see. Oh, next slide. Oh, it's not working. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we give an update on what's going on in the economy and brief you on some of the activities and what's happening here. This is our third and fourth quarter, so the last set of data we had was going into November. I think this is the old one. Well, we've updated since that time, but we'll get to it. Anyway, the unemployment rate, as you know, was chugging along at about 4%. And then COVID hit March. The unemployment rate went up to about 16%. And then since that time, it's been coming down. And it got to about 8%, 8.4% in August, but then it ticked up a little bit with the second wave. So September, it was 10.1% here in Corpus Christi, and then stayed in November to 10%. Now, one of the things you're going to see is, if we go to the next slide, is that the unemployment rate, I'm just looking at this one, so this is September numbers. The November numbers as they came out, our total yearly change year over year for unemployment, total unemployment was negative 15,300 jobs. But the monthly change, we added 700 jobs over the monthly change. And what happened is the unemployment rate still ticked up. And again, please, this is an earlier version that we'd submitted earlier, and then we'd updated last week. So I've got later data. Yeah, oh, they're going to switch it out? Okay. I know that we were working with the team and updated a version last week as well, once we had more up-to-date quarterly numbers as well. So the point is, unemployment rate, we lost jobs year over year, but when we add jobs in a month, between the previous month, you'd think that the unemployment rate would go down even though you're adding jobs, but sometimes it goes up. It's because of the labor rate participation, people returning to the market, looking for work, then they're starting to get counted in their in the numbers. The bottom line is it's not where we need it to be. And I know I don't have a slide on this. Other things that you need to be thinking about in terms of the what's going on in the economy. The housing market right now is very tight as well. We don't have a slide to that. But we went from, in November 2019, 4.9 months of inventory of homes, and the median home price was $203,000. And then right in November this year, it was 2.5 months of inventory, and median home price was right at a little less than $244,000. The unemployment, the housing market, the affordability index is getting much more. It's a tighter market. There's not as many homes available on the market. There's not as many available affordable homes, because if you think about it, a median family income is about between $60,000 and $70,000 in this market. And so if you multiply that by 3 times income minus debt, that means a family making $60,000 should be able to buy a home of $180,000. Somewhere between $180,000 and $200,000 for that median family here in Corpus. And then what we're seeing is $240,000. It means that there's not enough homes being built in the market. So we've been talking about this for many years, but now we're starting to see the numbers start to be a real crunch for folks. Let's go to the next slide. I'm guessing that this is going to refer to some of the surveys we've been doing. Okay, yeah, we've had 4 surveys in the market. As you know, we interview business leaders. We work with Dr. Jim Lee at the university. You can see the responses. 388 started, 927 responses, and we've made recommendations to the council over the last year since that time. And that's where some of the programs that you all created, such as the Lift Fund program, using the shuffled around money from Type A and things to help those business owners survive. Those recommendations came out of these surveys that we've been doing. And we've provided the survey data of all of these 4 surveys, and our next one's going to be, I think, at the end of February, as we move into whatever the next phase is. So what you'll see is the recommendations have been going to both the White House, the White House Director of Local Government Affairs, the state, the governor's office, the county, and all the counties in the region. And we also have we've created a group of about 25 to 30 economic development people from the entire region to help give data and to give guidance to some of those folks. And we've got everybody from Victoria down to Kingsville joining us on our groups, as well as the surveys. And we've provided the information to the city, and we have city staff on those presentations as well. So it's a bi-weekly call as well we do, and so to talk with the economic development professionals just to make sure. And the latest one, we'll be talking about how the rollout of the round of the PPP program is going to occur. So we're working on those. Let's see, go to the next slide, if you will, please. And so our last one, we've done senior executive breakfast, both with social distancing. We've moved those to Nueces Brewing Company. It's a large room, and we have a kind of a blended hybrid online for those folks who don't wish to participate in person or can't participate in person, and then there's still a lot of folks that do. But it's nothing fancy. It's a taco and a coffee, and masks are used, and we use social distancing. So we keep those programs going. Let's go to the next slide. And we were presenting to the Texoga State of Energy program. We're along with Senator Cruz and Commissioner George P. Bush, as well as our friends in the Rio Grande Valley. And then we've been doing presenting virtually to the South Texas Association of Realtors, and that's the Commercial Real Estate Association that they're based out of San Antonio. And since that time, we've had 2 site visits, and one of the groups is actually working with clients that are trying to make offers on property. And last one, let's go to the next slide. Okay, we hosted the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council, Dr. Scott Turner and his team. They came and toured the Opportunity Zone programs. We also had the Texas Regional Business Summit in Corpus Christi with Robert Allen, who's the president of Texas One, and Adriana Cruz, who is the governor's chief of staff, plus our folks here from Chris Hamilton from our board and Chris Smith from Cheniere. We had 20 active attraction projects, but I think that's going to go down. In fact, it has gone down since that time. We were eliminated from one large project. But we see we've still got a lot of projects in the steel sector and petrochemical sector, as well as drones and a couple of office users. So we're still working on some of those. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, and we're wrapping up the first phase right now of our Coastal Bend, which is the Quality of Place Initiative. We got 1,200 responses from this. We're asking folks about what ties them to a community, how do we stop the brain drain? And one of the things we found, if you will, we found that the younger folks are less tied to the community and older folks are, but here's some of the things that have become important. The aesthetics of a community are very important to people as they decide where they want to live. And this is important because now people can choose to live wherever they want because they can work online. And so what are the things that are going to make us the place? You know, we talk about white-collar jobs a lot, but it's not always about just attracting white-collar jobs and creating them. It's about making a community that white-collar job folks, professionals, income-generating folks, where they want to choose to live. So we're working on some of those. You're going to see that, the second phase on that, coming through this quarter in first quarter 2021. And the other thing is, the other thing we've discovered, and this is the first time a survey like this has been done in the post-COVID time frame, is that it's social capital. People's groups of friends have become so much more important in tying them to a community than it was. Social capital is what it's called. So we're starting to see that one become very much more important than actually just the places themselves. So let's go to the next slide. And I'm happy to answer any questions should you have any, but we're still actively doing a lot of things. And I would tell you that there's several big construction projects that are still keeping the full speed ahead, if you will, the Exxon project, Cheniere, Steel Dynamics, and to a certain extent the bridge. There's about 10,000 construction workers on those 4 projects alone. Those are important economic development projects. And our projection, and talking with Dr. Lee as well, is that without those 4 projects, our unemployment rate would probably be 5% higher than it is. So,
wow. Thank you, Mr. Vasey. We do have a question or comment, but I'd like to ask you, what is that group that you mentioned?
We do it as a regional group for professional economic development folks. That it's not just our group, but we have the people that are working on the daily basis on economic development, just to make sure that they've got accurate information that they can then share in their various communities.
And do we have
the city has Constance has participated.
Okay.
She was here, and various other people as well, and we'll have like Lift Fund people briefing on the status of that, and various other folks as well. But yes, the city's represented.
Okay, wonderful. But is that something that that would benefit us to hear, like on a monthly basis, or is it more you guys coming together to see how we can help?
Yeah,
help?
It's kind of a joint. It's kind of just to support the other people that are doing it in the profession, if you will.
Okay, that's fine. And then the Coastal Bend, our Coastal Bend?
Mm-hmm. Survey is completed. And we pushed that out, and we got 1,200 complete responses. We did it online. We were going to be doing it as more town hall type meetings, but we just couldn't achieve that in 2020. So,
Yeah, I think online's probably appreciated, but will we see those results?
yeah.
Oh, wonderful. When do
Yeah,
you?
we're still going through them, and it's a lady, you may remember, the city doctor. She's been around a while. Dr. Catherine Laughlin is kind of spearheading it. She was involved in the community probably about 10 years ago, and she did some community meetings. And if you've been around a while, you might have, you might kind of remember. I think during Mayor Adami's period, she did some work, and we've brought her back to help update some of those surveys.
Great, okay. Councilman Hernandez?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the, Ian, hadn't seen you. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of ask a question because maybe Dr. Lee had mentioned how this kind of works. It's kind of counterintuitive that we have a shortage of housing, but yet we have high unemployment. And I believe the unemployment numbers are from September of that 10%. Can you kind of explain the dichotomy in that situation?
Yeah, what's going on? So the long-term trend is people are moving to the community as kind of this family's moving here. We're getting larger as a community. There's another couple of weird things is probably people aren't moving as much as they were because, they're kind of hunkering down, like in their community. They're not leaving. They're not taking a job somewhere else. So there's a lot of things, kind of very strange things going on, and it's not just me and Jim Lee talking about it, but Ken Trevino over at Workforce Solutions. And we're starting to see, even though we might add jobs in a month, the unemployment rate goes up. And that's kind of counterintuitive as well. I think this is kind of the culmination of some historical things. I think that the housing issue has been coming for a number of years. I remember we've been talking about it for 3 years, 4 years that I can remember here. So I think it's perhaps that we're just not building enough houses, or the houses that are being built aren't affordable enough. That's the affordability index. And there's a whole raft of reasons going on. But I know that there are a couple of things on the horizon that are good things. With the merger between Horton and Brazelton Homes, they're probably going to be able to expand their capacity from, Brazelton would do about 230 homes a year. They're going to probably be able to increase that to north of 600. So there's going to be, at least that's what Bart tells me when, I've sat down and asked them about it. But they have different capacity, and we don't have national home builders. Horton's the first one coming in. So maybe, it'll drive the affordability down a little bit more because, you're not buying, Brazelton's not buying, 500 doors for a home. Horton's buying 50,000 doors, and they've probably got their own factory that makes them and brings them in. So there's a couple of weird things going on, but yeah, nobody's got a good handle on it, to be honest, since COVID.
Okay. The other question I have for you is, and you probably can provide this, I guess we'll have to have an executive session on this at some point, but some of the projects that are coming up and some that have decided not to come.
Yeah, there's some world demand things going on. The energy sector's going up and down, but yeah, we can provide some of that.
And lastly, I know we have a relationship with Zampat EDC, and there were some discussions about merger. I'm not necessarily fully up on that. It might be something you can kind of give your thoughts on it, and I don't necessarily think that's the right way to go, but you can probably give us some information as to how you work with the Zampat EDC. I understand they have a new director over there.
Met him today for the first time. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can kind of shed some light on that.
Yeah, that was, there was some talk about exploring it, and I think the direction that both boards of directors, our board of director and the Zampat board of directors, felt was, we work very closely together, but not to the extent of probably merging at this time probably isn't in the cards. So it's we share information, we work closely together, we do joint qualified site analysis, we do presentations. Tommy and our team will do that marketing. And it's not just, by the way, Zampat EDC, but Nueces County Development Commission. Christine Bryant from our office sits on that commission as well. And so we work across the board with everybody. And we don't, again, I want to be very clear, we don't play favorites with anybody. The clients drive the decisions, but we work very closely with everybody who's involved in economic development. Like, I just don't think the merger's going to happen. And I will tell you, Adam Gavrecki, I sat down with him for a couple of hours today. This guy's he's got a good track record in economic development. He comes from a professional economic development background. He adheres to the same IEDC ethics standards we go to, and you know, we treat it as he's a professional in the field. So we're very optimistic and very hopeful, you know, him coming on board.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks,
you. Councilman Pusley.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You know, you brought up the housing deal, and Mayor and Council, I apologize. I was going to bring this up when we discussed, or when we voted on item 24, but I'm a little off balance here still. With respect to affordable housing, I wanted to bring to the attention of the council, and some of the past members of the council probably already understand this, but of the list of the 16 properties that were in item 24 that are being auctioned off for non-payment of back taxes and whatever, 6 of those properties are being purchased by an organization called Thanksgiving Homes. And if you didn't know, Thanksgiving Homes is affiliated with the Corpus Christi Housing Authority. And they do infill single-family home construction. And so my assumption here is they've purchased these 6 properties with the idea of going in and building affordable housing. If you look at the gross amount owed all entities on those properties, it totaled up to approximately, and I rounded all these up to about $137,000. And the city's part of that, if you throw in the property taxes, and the big one was the paving and demo liens, that's about $12,200. So the gross owed to the city, if you do the math, is about $76,000 and some change. And you subtract what the $12,200 that we'll get out of this property sale, the city is essentially going to have $64,000 involved in contributing to affordable housing. So, Peter, I think it's important in the future when we have these properties like this that we look at them. Obviously, Thanksgiving Home is looking at them, and there's some other names that came up there multiple times, and I assume they're probably in the same business as Thanksgiving Homes. But I think these resale properties are a real opportunity for us to have an impact on the low-income housing issue. I mean, the city of Corpus Christi gets banged all the time for not doing enough for affordable housing. And this is one way where we could do it. We can look at these properties, and if we see one that we think is viable, we even have the option of pulling these off and doing something with them other than allowing them to go to tax sale. We did it at the county, and it worked very well. So I just want to bring that to your attention, and I think in the future we need to pay really close attention to those as they come across.
Councilman, you just mentioned something. My good friend Dan Brown is involved now leading a lot of the efforts in building new homes, and I'm telling you, he's got 40 years of experience in banking and financing and making these things. And I've seen a couple of those houses, toured them. Those are wonderful houses, really nice, great product. And they're affordable, that, you know, are coming out the 150, 160 range, 60,000 range. So there's steps. We just need to get more scale.
And Councilman, I think you're right on point. And that reminds me, I think we may need to be apprised of what that process would entail. Because if I remember, and I don't, but I do recall that somewhere in the last 4 years, that was brought up, and I know it was with Dan, because I specifically asked, but there was something, I don't know if it's a legal side, but then you just said the county can do it,
Well,
so I don't.
in the state of Texas, you cannot forgive taxes owed. If we could do that, it would have made the deal on the old courthouse a lot simpler,
Right.
but you can't do that, and we investigated that thoroughly. But what you can do is what we did at the county. We had some properties out in the Cal Allen area against the river lots that had been purchased years and years ago by families, and the original owners had died off or whatever, and it had just turned into a huge problem, and Billy's very familiar with it. I mean, there's a certain point where you go down County Road 73 and you cross a line and you will swear you've entered a third world country, and you probably, you don't want to ever go out there at night. And so it's really tough. And so what we found out were there were squatters moving in and living on these properties, and there was no septic system. So what I did is we got together with the city and the Bays and Estuaries group, and when those properties would come up for auction at the courthouse, the city would buy them and take them off the rolls, and then the Bays and Estuaries agreed to take those properties and care for them in perpetuity and basically create green space with them.
Wow.
So we could do something similar with buying the properties, or taking them off the auction list if we felt that they were. But, you know, maybe it involves us getting in partnership with Thanksgiving Homes or whoever and saying, look, we think these other properties are viable. But it's, I think, a really good way for the city to somewhat address our knock that we don't do enough for affordable housing. Because, you know, guys, the problem with affordable housing is we live in an area where most real estate property here in this area is very expensive. And for builders and developers to go in and develop an affordable housing project, it just doesn't return in, you know, return on investment is not where they need it to be. So we're going to have to take advantage of things like this to help attack the problem. But I think there's an opportunity to do that.
You know, I think the EDC is part of the problem. I mean, I will tell you that, like the Cal Allen area right now, the real estate market is on fire.
Oh, yeah.
And because that 77 corridor, so Steel Dynamics, by the time we're done, there'll be 2,000 highly paid jobs on that campus with all the Steel Dynamics and their affiliated companies that come in. And you're not going to commute from the south side necessarily up to the Sinton area. But I will tell you that houses are being snapped up very, very quickly in Sinton, and I mean, there are bidding wars a little bit.
If you put a house on the market in Wood River tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, by 5 o'clock you'll have 4 contracts and people bidding against each other.
Something of a good problem to have, really. I mean,
yeah, it is a great problem.
Because there are other communities where houses will sit on the market for months and months and months and months. Yeah. I mean, that said, we still need to focus on just, and Peter and I have talked about the issue. We've met with some, you know, the people involved in that business, and, you know, we're trying to get on the radar of some of the folks that can help us with that scale issue.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But Mayor, I think this is a great opportunity for us. You know, we just need to pay attention to these in the future.
Thank you for bringing that up, and we're going to look into that for sure. Okay. Councilman Smith?
Thank you. And just to follow up on that, I think the important thing is to get these lots back in the system, which we did today with it. What Dan Brown's doing out there in my conversations with Dan is a lack of lots. And so if they're picking them up, particularly at the prices that they have there, and the price point on his house is $120,000, $130,000
It's low.
With it. So you look at those pictures in our packet, and each one of those lots, you're going, golly, did they look like the king of rats and possums and everything else with it. So not only are we getting it back on the tax rolls, but
there was one I thought we should, you know, high game fence it and put up a deer feeder. There probably was some game in there.
So we're getting these lots back in the system, and we look at the amount of back taxes on there. They've been sitting, nothing happening, not for years, but for decades. So it's accelerating that. That gives us these infill lots at an affordable price that the Dan Browns of the world can move ahead. And completely different, Ian, but the dichotomy that you talked about. Well, Corpus Christi, by one survey, is the 5th most popular place to retire. And I'm seeing that in the Bluff and the island, where we're seeing it in the city too. So part of our demand, so even though unemployment's going down, we've got a red hot housing market, and a lot of these are higher end homes. So they're driving up the median with it, but is we're changing as a city, and this is something we need to recognize when we are a popular retirement plot that changes the stats out. And we need to be looking for that. Is a statistical change due to people are discovering us despite ourselves, and I've seen this with COVID. I was talking to one island homeowner to kind of follow up with Wood River. I talked to him Sunday. He put his house on the market Friday. He had 6 offers. 2 of them were above the contract with it. And I'm talking about the ones that will drive that median. You know, what's the mean? So we need to be looking underlying it with that too. So we have both the median and the mean price of these houses.
I've been studying growth management for about 30 years. My master's degree I wrote was a growth management thesis on, you know, whether we like it or not, growth is coming. So now we have to do the best practices, and that's one of the things Peter's team is leading, and, you know, we're involved in. There's a lot of folks that are involved in helping make sure that we do the right things so we're not playing catch up.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. No, that's good. Thank you. Yes. Happy New Year. Mr. Zanoni, could we get just options on what are the possibilities on some of these homes? Because, Greg, you know, oh, Lord, now I forget the name of the street. It's in Flower Bluff. What is it? It escapes me, but literally 5 years. Like, I've been working on it 4 years, and it had to do with legal stuff. You know, county legal, I don't know what, but Line Barger is who we probably need to reach out to and say, how do we expedite, how do we pull, how do we do whatever we need to do? Because that house, I talked to Dan about, and we couldn't do anything because of X,
Well,
Y,
many
Z.
of the properties that you see come before you, Mayor, will have extensive numbers of liens against them, and sometimes the liens are so deep that clearing them is almost you have to go spend an
Right.
inordinate amount of money with a lawyer, and I've been through that process. I did that on a piece of property that I bought one time through bankruptcy that, you know, the people who owned it before didn't have any liens against the property, but they had liens against them for
Something else.
something
Yeah.
else, and those liens have to be cleared before you can get clear title
Right.
on many of these properties. That's the
Right.
key. So not every property fits the mold, but there are some times where, you know, and obviously Thanksgiving Home went through here, and I looked at the properties they picked up, and they sort of cherry-picked this deal. They got some properties that are, you know, going to be buildable. Some of these were 25-foot wide or less than 25-foot wide, and, you know, building a house on that of any kind is going to be difficult. But I just think there's an opportunity, if we pay attention, we may be able to pick some of these up, and you know, it's just a feather we can add to our cap and say, look, you know, we're not doing nothing, we are doing something. So, but anyway.
Well, I think if we can get some information, I think it'd be wonderful, so we know what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Because then there's the cost of maintaining all these lawns and, oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, no, thank you. So moving on to item Q, that's an executive session, which we do not have one today. Item R, identify future agenda items. So section R is identifying any future items. Council members, does anyone have anything for us to consider?
Ms. Rowland?
Yes.
I've got a couple. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a couple of things. First off, I guess this one probably really for you, Mayor. You know, our city manager in May will be with us 2 years, and we've yet to evaluate him. So perhaps we can get that on an agenda item pretty soon or start the process. I think he's done a wonderful job, and I think we need to put that forth and set some goals for him, and talk to him about the things we love, the things we liked, and maybe not like so much.
That's a joke, right?
There's none of the latter, right?
Is that a joke? Actually, yes, that was on my, being that today's my first day, so I'll be walking across the hall to my office. That is on my radar, Councilman Barrera, but thank you, because it has been, how many months? 19?
19 months.
19 months. You're due.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that to light. We will absolutely you want to put it on the agenda?
Oh, it could be an agenda item, but I really wanted to make it aware. I figured this would
Yes.
probably be the most appropriate time to bring it up.
Absolutely, and we'll start working on that so that we can bring it forward, if that's okay with you.
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
And then I have one other question for the city manager.
Sure.
Peter, I had noticed that when the agenda first came out, and I was really excited to see that we had this process for the process with which we make decisions on these affordable housing credits. And it's not on the agenda, obviously, so what happened?
Right, so that item was on the initial draft agenda, and we were doing pre-briefings with the mayor and council members. The mayor and I talked about it, and there was discussion that maybe a workshop with the council to better explain the process to the council and familiarize them with the whole tax credit process or tool that's used.
And affordable
And
housing.
affordable housing. And so it was determined to take it off this council agenda for today.
Well, does that present a challenge with regard to, obviously, I think the deadline to be able to apply for those projects was Friday. I know of two that I've received information on. I don't know if there's others. But does that present a challenge as far as these projects, so that way we can decide whether or not, or we can decide as a council which projects that we favor or which ones that, I was really enthused to see that we had a process finally, because I remember what happened last year.
Yes.
And, it's only 3 points, and I'm glad to see that staff came up with an idea, and I was really excited to see it on this. So is there a challenge right now by kicking that can down the road that it presents a problem for these developers?
Can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's absolutely not kicking the can down the road. Our conversation that the city manager and I had was about, on my part, was about having a brand-new council, and not everyone knew, but we have 3 new members, and my recommendation was to pull it because I strongly feel, because I was new, back in 2016, and this exact same thing happened, where it came forth, and we had 4 people who were new, and we weren't very versed in these type projects. So I feel that if we could sit down, spend some time just on this subject, so we can all ask whatever questions we want, have a good workshop on it, and then move forward with the matrix. It's not, and I believe the item was about a matrix. It isn't about the matrix. It's about the education behind this process, which is not something that's very simple. So that was my recommendation. That was the reason, Councilman Barrera, that we pulled it. And so we're going to move forward with, I believe, doing that at some point here.
But Peter, does this present a challenge for the deadline with regard to the recommendation for the projects that the individuals that have applied? That's what I'm worried about.
No, what it does is the city of Corpus Christi will not use a process to award letters. That's what it means. So
Which
so
we
then
have.
we're going to go back to the same thing. I understand, Mayor, I understand where you're at. I know being a greenhorn and being the rookie last year, it's just that I know these developers they've put a lot into this already. I know the one in particular that's the project on by Heritage Park. I know they put a substantial amount of earnest money, and I just want to see. So when are we going to put on the agenda? Then, so we're not going to use a process then to be able to.
No. What Mr. Zanoni and I discussed was holding off on bringing forth that item, which consisted of a matrix for tax credit projects, so that we can verse everyone in it in a workshop. That said, this topic goes hand in hand with a much larger picture, which is affordable housing. And so that is going to give us all, especially our new members of the council, A whole lot of education that I certainly didn't get, nor did anyone sitting up here, honestly.
Yeah,
That's really the bottom line. So it isn't about not having it whatsoever. I am a big believer in processes. We haven't had a process for this, so no, it's not going to be a detriment to anyone. In 5 years, we give those letters of resolution, and they move on, and the state is truly, where it all happens. We don't want to get into depth with that, but to answer your question, we're very happy to bring it back. Yes, sir.
But I'm sorry, but my question is, so I guess during that, Peter indicated that then we are not going to use the process on these upcoming projects. So then when is that going to be up for debate?
When is what?
That would be, the award letters are March. Is it March, Michael?
Did you have a comment?
When do we do the award letters?
Did you have a comment? Your lights.
February? So in
Yeah,
February.
I wasn't sure, but it was all.
Yeah, Mayor, in February.
The deadline, February 28th?
Yeah, the last meeting in February is when the staff will bring forward the staff recommendation as to whether the developer for their housing project gets a letter of no objection or a letter of support.
Right. And
And
we
but- So we'll just,
On, Mr. Zanoni, this is Councilman Hunter.
yes, sir?
The guidelines that we were given, weren't they a direct, basically copy of what the state requires from us? Weren't we just taking
Right.
what they required and putting it in?
Yeah, so to develop a process for the city of Corpus Christi, which we haven't used one here to date, doesn't mean we shouldn't, but we looked at 7 cities above us, and to include Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth, and the state. And we developed a matrix or a scoring process based on best practice work that's out there, to include, Councilman Hunter, the state's scoring matrix.
Okay.
And so that
Thank
matrix.
you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
So I guess this is my challenge. I've obviously been fortunate enough to be involved in this, and I remember, not to drag Councilman Herrero through throw him under the bus. We both served on the RTA board, but throw him under the bus is that they waited till the day, the last day to complete that. And that creates a lot of anxiety for the developers, because they're working to accumulate all these points. And the sooner that we get it done, the better position that we are. We become a good steward to these developers in being able to provide them transparency, predictability. And I'm just concerned that I understand the matrix is one thing. I would have preferred that we have already had the matrix done, but the thing is now is that we're going to hang out these developers that they're just going to be waiting, because we're not going to have another meeting until the 26th. So when is going to be our next meeting after that?
Probably 2 weeks after, because the first week we're off.
Yeah, the next
But-
council meeting is
Right.
the 9th of February.
Okay. Well, Councilman Martinez has a comment, and we'll circle back. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have an opportunity to get, or at least I did, to get a short overview of the point scoring system before the meeting today, but understanding the scoring system is not the equivalent of understanding the process. And I, for one, would appreciate being able to have a workshop to get a better understanding of the process. I don't want to put anybody in a position where they're at a disadvantage or in a position where it gives anybody an unfair advantage. But that's kind of part of the reason why I would like to know a little more, if possible.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Same here. I talked to the mayor, I called her and said, I really would like to understand the process of all this. I know I was given a briefing on it, but this is very, very important, and I just feel that I need to be educated more on it. That's why I had asked the mayor to hopefully pull it if she could. I didn't know if she could, but it's one of the things that I feel is so important to move forward on, but we need to understand it. I've never dealt with that, so I want to make sure that I understand it properly so I can make the right decision.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just think that as Councilman Martinez had indicated, we put developers either at an advantage or a disadvantage. So when are we going to get it on the agenda?
Okay, well,
When can we have a workshop
we'll
then,
talk.
so we can get it on the agenda?
Right, we can, let me let Councilman Hernandez make his comment, and then that question honestly would be, Councilman Barrera, something that the city manager and I would have to look at. So obviously, if we had a workshop first, then we can do it simply right after that. Okay, so hang on one sec, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. It wasn't okay, I'll comment on this here. I mean, the qualified application plan for the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs is 179 pages long. I know I spent a lot of time reading it on this, and a workshop would be beneficial to give some understanding on it. I don't necessarily think that this process needs to be pre-approved by council. I mean, the city staff can still utilize a process for them to evaluate their, the applications without having to come to city council for a pre-approval of a process, because they're going to come with their recommendation anyway. And I don't necessarily think it's appropriate for us to get a pre-approval on a process that some individuals may not understand the entire process. So that being said, that maybe a workshop is possibly one of the best options to bring everybody on board, because it is a lengthy and quite, even reading the majority of that, 179 pages, there's still a lot of questions. So I would leave it at that. The thing that I want to bring up for future agenda items, and this might be something for that can be provided to us in an email. There's a lot of concern about what's happening over at CCISD with the situation with the FBI raids, and some of the school board member that's involved had a lot of contact with members of the city. I'd like to get some information as to how much contact via email or meetings with individual city members that individual may have had, or even the company that is involved as well. And if you could provide that information to us, and if it's something that we need to discuss, maybe an executive session or other, that we can refer to that. I just want to make sure that we're not that we're looking at any possible risks that we may have associated with that. Thank you.
Councilman Lerma, did you have a comment? Or your light, is that new or old?
I don't have a comment, but for future meetings on the agenda, I'd like to ask for the LAN report that was done on North Beach, that I think the council was supposed to be given back in November.
No, Councilman Lerma, so the plan was to present it to council in January this month. And I'm going to work with the mayor. Today's our first day, but we're going to see if we can put it on the agenda for the 26th.
Okay.
So we received the draft report from LAN, the staff did, on Monday. We received some prior drafts as well back in November to peer review and give the LAN feedback. The report's still in draft form, and it should be done this week. The company, LAN, has also been hired to, or within their contract, they have scope to present to City Council. And so that presentation is being finalized as well. The plan for that is, just as we had promised, not only the council, but the public, which is in January this month. And that'll be that 26th meeting this month.
All right, thank you so
Mayor
much.
Guajardo's in agreement with that. Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, great. Rebecca? No?
I've got
I think
Oh, I'm
somebody
so
has a
sorry.
comment.
Councilman Smith, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to put as a future agenda item, council be briefed on short-term rentals with it. We'd heard that our zoning does not allow short-term rentals, and it is a big issue in certain areas. So just a brief where we are. The Island Strategic Action Committee has had a committee looking into it in the island, and I've heard comments from Flower Bluff. So I would like short-term rentals, our path forward as a future agenda item.
Great. Yes, support that. Okay, well, being there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned.